in the live stream. Let me close this window over here. Please let me know if you can hear me clearly. Hold on. Right? All right, I'll wait for a minute. If you're here, let me know in the live chat, please. I'm outside today. It just finished raining. There's no rain now, so okay. Evan and Demetria, thank you for being here. I'll wait for a few minutes so others come in. William, thank you for being here. By the way, William, you know about the subject already. I've spoken with you about it. So for you, it's going to be a lot of repetition, but for the rest, it's important to share this information. Wendy, thank you for being here. Chip is Sweet, thank you for being here. I'll just wait for 3 more minutes till more people come in, then I'll begin. Okay. First of all, thank you all for being here. And I praise the Lord for this beautiful weather. It was raining a lot this morning. So now I can record this live stream for you outside. Okay. 3 likes already. Thank you very much. For those who want to donate via the super chat, it's very well appreciated. Every donation will be used for this ministry to serve you. You know what? Some people don't realize they need help, and some people that realize they need help don't know how to ask for help because they're so overwhelmed. Well, for such people, Heavenly Father anointed me, and I don't wait till the people realize that they are in danger. I see the danger and I take action. Yeah, that pisses off a lot of evil spirits, a lot of demonic strongholds, but you know what? I don't even care about them. They're not even allowed to exist to begin with, so, okay. I have PayPal because I can't use Cash App because Cash App is for United States only. But I've linked to my PayPal donation on my of my other videos or at the About section of my YouTube page. Thank you very much. Girly Girl, thank you for being here. Share, thank you for being here. Okay, let me just begin with the topic of today. It's a very serious topic. Can you hear me clearly? That thing first. Can you hear me clearly? Let me know. Okay. Look, the thing I'm talking about today is a very serious topic. And if you know young people that are interested in Asia, warn them about following. There is a lot of organ harvesting going on in Asia. And I'm going to tell you straight up how the operation works. It's very simple. Today, the criminals use social media because social media is more accessible today. In the past, they used magazines, they used those telephone lines you could call to just be in contact with people, but they modernized a little bit. But let me tell you how it goes. You have this guy that goes on Instagram, okay? And he sees all those Instagram models, those Asian Instagram models. So he thinks, wow, those are beautiful chicks. I mean, those beautiful girls, they wear high school uniforms, they wear a legging, they wear short skirts. I mean, they're just Instagram models. And they have thousands of followers. And the Instagram profiles look very professional. But here's the thing. Let's say you have a guy called William. And William's into Asian women, and he thinks, whoa, this Taiwanese girl, man, she's very good. So let me just talk to her. And he messages her on Instagram. And let's say now she messages back. And they decide to meet one time in an American Chinese restaurant. Okay? And she says, I'm coming to California to do a photo shoot so we can meet at some restaurant over there. And William's thinking, yes, I've won. William travels all the way from Kansas or wherever he is, all the way to California. And he's there at the right time. He thinks, I'm going to meet this hot chick. Oh, it's going to be very good. Okay, what happens? William arrives there. He's waiting. And while he's waiting, suddenly someone asks him for help. Some Chinese guy, and of course he speaks Chinese, so he helps the old man out. And before you know it, men with masks appear snatch him away. He's transported to some dungeon somewhere in LA, where they sodomize him, torture him to please the demons, and then they ritually kill him, take all his blood, and they remove all his vital organs, and they dump the body somewhere. And years later, they find this corpse with no organs in it. Meanwhile, 10 years have passed, and William's family is thinking, what happened to William? What happened to William? William has been missing for 10 years. And the last thing detectives find out is that he wanted to meet this Taiwanese model. But when the detectives want to figure out who this Taiwanese model is, they get the FBI to tell us, don't bother with it, because it's going to become too dangerous. Because here's why. That organ harvesting industry in Asia is led by the Li dynasty. The Li dynasty is this Chinese dynasty that has been around since ancient times. They are descendants of Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu was this ancient ruler during the time when the Greek Empire was established. And Lao Tzu's descendants, they governed several royal houses eventually. And at some point in the Middle Ages, they withdrew themselves from public politics. And ever since, they have been behind the scenes in Asia. And this Li dynasty, what they do is they are a household of wizards. At least the men are, because women cannot be wizards. The women can only be witches. So it's a household of wizards and witches of the highest rank. They are completely dedicated to Satan, and their job is to keep sexual trauma on the Asian continent. That's their assignment. And they've been doing this for centuries. And they use paranormally advanced soldiers for it. So they have those gangs in every Asian nation that are paranormally advanced. So those men don't even use weapons to do assassinations. They use paranormal aid. For example, you used to have the ninjas, I believe, in Japan, which were one example of them. That was a cult that of paranormally advanced soldiers of the Li dynasty, and they were there as rape squads and killing squads to keep the pain and the trauma in the population. Well, the Li dynasty, their residence is Hong Kong, and at some point during the colonial era, they asked the British Empire to include them. That's why Hong Kong became British territory, and they now could do their dirt much easier because they were now British subjects. So the Li dynasty, they are the ones that lead all the prostitution and all the human trafficking and all the organ harvesting in Asia. And they do this with a simple purpose to keep everyone traumatized. Because when you enforce sexual trauma on the masses, this causes such a delay in their mental development that you can now deceive them with all types of distractions, and that's how you drag a lot of people to hell with Satan. Just like the ancient Romans used sexual trauma in the form of crucifixion and pedestry and other stuff to keep the masses in check, under control, the same way the Li dynasty is doing it in Asia. Okay, so before I continue, do you understand the sketch of the situation that I've just explained to you? Let me know in the live chat. So a lot of people, when they think about crime, think about the criminal organizations, think about the mafia, think about drug cartels, and they focus so much on organizations. They don't look who's behind those organizations. And there's this, many movies out there and many series on Netflix are so focused on organizations, and they glorify and deify those criminal organizations. But let me tell you, those criminal organizations are nothing. It's the cult of wizards that are behind them that's the real issue. Because here's the thing, wizards are losers. They're men who forfeited their humanity. They are disgusted and they hate their own humanity so much that they want to be adopted by Satan. And to do this, they assist Satan in keeping their own species, the humankind, into sexual trauma and into ruin. That's the type of pathetic losers wizards are. And in exchange, they get the best cover that Satan has to offer. So wizards they're quite dangerous. When wizards come, they come to kill, steal, and destroy, and they don't care. Because they forfeited empathy, sympathy, pity, anything that makes them healthy and human, they forfeit all of it. So a wizard can, for example, stand around there. He's possessed with likely 40,000 demons, and he can generate a negative cloud, unload it on the traffic, and you have several traffic accidents and even children and babies dying. And why does he do this? Then there's trauma in the community, and demons can feed off trauma. That's how wizards are. They have no empathy whatsoever to the danger they bring others into. Okay? And ninjas was just one example. Throughout the centuries, the Lee dynasty always developed those cult-like criminal organizations that did the dirty job in keeping Asia traumatized sexually. That's one of the reasons why sexual shame is such a big thing in Asia. It's worldwide, but exactly in Asia and Asian nations, sexual shame is a very big problem, at least with a lot of domestic violence. And the Lee dynasty, they are there to keep this trauma going. That's what they do. So when you hear about the Yakuza, for example, when people hear the Yakuza, they think, whoa, it's a dangerous gang from Japan. Don't mess with them because they go very far. They are afraid and terrified of Yakuza. But here's the thing. The Yakuza was just a small group of rent boys of Japanese criminals during the Japanese Empire, during the colonial era. And later, with sponsorship from Korea, they became this big gang in Japan. But here's the thing. The Yakuza is just an agent organization of the Lee dynasty. When I arrived in Japan the first time, me and another believer, we were both black. We went to Japan, several cities. It was 2013. And at some point, we arrived in Yokohama. Yokohama is a city near Tokyo, Japan's capital. In Yokohama, before we arrived, I was in prayer. The Holy Spirit told me, don't make any pictures outside when you arrive in Yokohama. And I was thinking, okay, but I obeyed the Holy Spirit. When we arrived in Yokohama, I was thinking, this place looks a bit old. Why is Japan so modernized, but this place looks so abundant? We arrived at the hotel. At the hotel, we saw many Japanese people with limbs missing. They were missing part of their legs or missing a hand or whatever. And I was thinking, what? And the hotel was several floors high, and was almost empty. And they didn't have any Wi-Fi. It was as if we entered into the 1980s over there. We stayed there for how many days? Was it 5 days? Or anyway, we stayed there for a little while. We went to Chinese restaurants to eat daily. We went to town also. But there was one time we went to a restaurant and the restaurant owner was afraid that we were there. He was thinking, why are you guys here? I was thinking, chill out, man. Why are you afraid? We're just foreigners. Okay? Okay, so we ate there, we left. And I was thinking, what goes on with this place? The people are so dense over here. When I returned back to the Netherlands, there were people explaining to me, Rashid, Yokohama is the place where the criminal world of Japan fights out their wars. And later I figured out that the Yokohama is the seat in Japan of the Lee dynasty. So it goes like this. You have the Yakuza, who has some territory in Japan, and you have other tiny rival groups. And they manage the prostitution, the drug trade, and the human trafficking, and the pedophile rings, which are also quite big in Japan, straight up. But above them, you have the handlers of the Lee dynasty, who are located in Yokohama. And all those agent organizations, they get a quota. So the Yakuza is told, the head of the Yakuza is told, listen, each month you need to cost this amount of trauma in Japanese society. Each month you need to kidnap that amount of foreign girls in this country. You need to cause this and this type of tension. At the same time, we give you money through the catalog system, and you can do charity so you can cover it up. So they need to make sure that the level of negative emissions in the area remains constant for the demons. If, however, the Yakuza or any of those organizations in Japan fail to keep the trauma going, the handlers of the Lee dynasty in Yokohama will send those paranormally enhanced soldiers to sexually assault the family members of those people in the Yakuza. And there'll be torture, ritual, and all of that. So it's going to be very nasty. And then they know, okay, we need to comply. That's how it goes. And the same way that Lee Dynasty does this with Japan, they do it with Korea also. They do it with mainland China, with Taiwan, with Malaysia. And recently, well, not actually recently, for about a decade, they've been active in Australia also. And they wanted to go to Africa to extend their trauma program into Africa. But, oh dear, when they decide, we go to Africa to extend our trauma program, what they forgot was that African believers are very fierce. Because African believers have their own wizards over there that are haunting them. So African believers in general are quite fierce, are quite direct, quite powerful. So when the Lee Dynasty thought, okay, we can extend our thing to Africa, just deport a lot of Chinese migrants over there, and then we'll use the Africans, those black folks, as collateral also. But common black folks in Africa revolted, African believers went off, and it all backfired. And around the same time, there was a lot of protest and rise in Hong Kong, so their own home base, Hong Kong, began to collapse. So they know now not to mess around with Africa. Okay, praise the Lord for that. So they can't use Africa as a collateral. So what the Lee Dynasty has now is that you have Pyongyang, where they launder all the prostitution and money of Asia. That's what they do. So in Pyongyang, that's the capital of North Korea, which actually doesn't exist. They use that to launder all their money with fake businesses and all of that. Then you have Singapore, where they invest in legit businesses because they need to have a hold on the business world in order to have a leverage over Asia. So you can have a Chinese barbershop in Singapore, and that barbershop got a loan to start its business from Lee merchants. And now the Lee Dynasty can use that barbershop for their stuff. Or you may have a supermarket branch in Malaysia that's Muslim owned, but but many of the suppliers are Lee agents also. So that's how they do it. Singapore they use to invest in legit businesses throughout Asia. And Pyongyang is there for fake business to launder all the prostitution money and all the criminal income. And I think the prostitution money is quite high because prostitution is a very big plague in Asia. And because Asia it has so much sexual shame, people are too afraid to admit this. So Asians have this pride that they want to maintain an honorable family image. And because of that, all the sexual shame is worked out behind the scenes. And that's why the Lee Dynasty benefits from it, having all those prostitution things all around. And they use Pyongyang to, to launder all the cash. That's why North Korea is there. Because there is no country called North Korea. It's just a fake administration that Lee Dynasty uses just to distract other people. So understand that anytime you hear about North Korea being a danger, it's just a scam. Okay? Pyongyang was also a Catholic stronghold, so pagan Christianity is big over there. And the Lee Dynasty, as mentioned before, they are the head of all the criminality in Asia. They are the ones that lead all the prostitution rings, pedophile rings, organ harvesting, and all of that. And they use pagan churches as a cover-up. So anytime you have a Catholic stronghold in Asia somewhere, the Lee Dynasty is dominant over there. So many of those churches in Asia are led by Lee agents, who are chief warlocks that pretend to be anointed pastors. So now you know that. And many of those pagan churches in Asia, they're also recruitment centers for people to join the shadow government, as well as places where they administer the human trafficking, the pedophile rings, as well as the organ harvesting and all of that. So again, Pyongyang is where they launder everything with fake businesses. In Singapore, they invest in legit businesses. Hong Kong is just a place where they reside. And Guangdong, some other place in China, is a second center for them, because they need to have a center on directly in mainland China itself. And they won't be using Vietnam as their shield. So many of them are doing charity work in Vietnam to get the sympathy of the Vietnamese people, and they use the sympathy of the Vietnamese people as a shield against people suspecting them of what they really are. So, do you understand how they work? I just explained, but do you understand it? Let me know in the live chat. Is childhood trauma that causes people traumatize others? Well, childhood trauma can contribute to it, but that's a whole nother subject. I may talk about it later on, but it does contribute. So, that's why in Asia, when it comes to things like prostitution or and all of that, or when it comes to those gangster figures, they're almost untouchable. Why? Because all the criminal syndicates and all the satanic cults in Asia are terrified of the Li dynasty. They're all terrified of them. And the Li dynasty, man, they operate as gods in Asia. They're like the untouchables. Nobody dares to even mention them. Law enforcement, like police and all of that, when they notice that one of the names of the Li dynasty is on in a case, they just tell anyone drop it. Because if a police continues to investigate it, then the family of a police officer may end up being kidnapped, being tortured sexually, and all of that, being spread all over. Now today, social media can do that. Or they'll begin to stalk someone regularly. And you have those paranormally enhanced soldiers who can also cause a lot of damage in the community. And here's the thing, the Li dynasty, they're also quite active in California. And even in the United States, they're almost untouchable. Only the agents that work for them, those common Chinese criminals or Vietnamese criminals, they're the ones that can go to prison. And often the Li dynasty hires Mexican criminals also, or they hire Mexican cartels to kill their own agents in prison also. Mexican drug cartels are nothing compared to the Li dynasty. Even they are afraid of them. So the Li dynasty is also increasing in presence in Asia, in Latin America also. So they want to expand now, because they can, for centuries, they can get away with everything in Asia. So now they want to expand. Latin America, Australia is already succeeding. Australia has become the energetic plantation to produce a lot of sexual filth for the demons. They want to expand to Africa, but as I mentioned before, black believers whoop their ass, for just to say it plain, colloquially like that. So they don't go over there anymore. They use charities, businesses, and pagan church as a cover-up. That's true. And that's why there's so much violence against children, women. I mean, especially little boys. There are many organizations that enable child rape and all of that in Asia. Why is that continuing? Because those pagan churches trap real believers in false teaching. There are real believers in Asia, of course, but many of them are deceived and trapped in pagan church, and those pagan churches are led by the Li dynasty. They don't look. The Li dynasty, okay, there are many Chinese people with a last name Li. They're not part of this dynasty because over time, some people they had members of their family that left the satanic cults. They had children, so you have a lot of Chinese folks who have the Li last name, but they're not part of that dynasty. Okay, but the Li dynasty is a small satanic household, and they have supporting families throughout Asia. Also, the Vietnamese royal family is one of them. Well, I don't even want to call them royal, but you have the Vietnamese royal family. You have the Other royal households in Asia were also agents of them. Agents were supporting them. And the second to the lead dynasty in Asia is the Japanese imperial house. But most people won't talk about them. Well, the Japanese imperial house doesn't actually do much. They're just there to as a symbolic throne, but still they're involved. So this is how they do it. And they use a lot of Vietnamese people as agents also to cover up. And there are also many African coons that move to Asia and they become the foot soldiers for the Li dynasty and to become the security guards for their programs. Sometimes some black people are really out of their minds. But okay, you have those black coons doing such stupid stuff. For example, if there is a kidnap program going on, they might use Moroccan agents who are part of the shadow government, so that when things come out in the media, people say it's Moroccans that are causing trouble, let's say in Korea or in Taiwan, whatever, then people will get upset at Moroccans. They'll get this anti-migrant sentiment, and this anti-migrant sentiment causes negativity that causes people to flock together. So they're using foreigners as agents often, just so that people get upset with foreigners, so people don't notice that they're the ones behind it. So yes, I've explained what the root of most of the evil in Asia is. Now, of course, world links by themselves enable a lot of nonsense. I understand that. And you have creeps out there, from amongst the commoners who also do evil. So not absolutely all evil in Asia is by the Li dynasty, but they are the ones administering and keeping the evil there. Look, if you're an Asian believer, you don't know who to target. You know where to send your energetic missiles. So next time you hear about covered up crimes in Asia, now you know what goes on. So understand this. The Li dynasty is a white supremacist, self-hating syndicate that throughout the generations, they've kept Asia in sexual trauma. That's what they are. Why do I say white supremacists? Because Asia has been whitened since Genghis Khan. When the Mongolians began to take over the Chinese Empire in the Middle Ages and all of that, they conducted genocidal programs and they murdered many, if not in some areas, most of the original Asian people, because original Asians are copper skinned and brown skinned, and some of them are even dark skinned. Okay, so they massacred, they caused food poisoning, and they caused famines in various places. And the women that were left, who were often girls back then, they were put into those camps where they were raped and they brought forth babies who were often pale skinned. And that's how they replaced the colored population of Asia with those pale skinned people. And that's why when you go to places like Japan or Korea or most of the parts of China, most of the people that are pale is because of this rape regime of the Mongolians. Under Genghis Khan, it had its peak. Genghis Khan even participated in much of it. So that's why how Asia was whitened over time. And that's where Asians have this obsession with bleaching their skin also. You can also see it in India. When the Mongolians wanted to do the same to Japan, it failed. But there were coons in Japan that enact the same program in Japan also. So now you know where this obsession with bleaching their skin to look white comes from. So the whitening of Asia. And this trauma, historical trauma of this mass rape is what the Li dynasty wants to keep ongoing in Asia. So there are white supremacists that hate their own people. Okay? If you're from Australia, your country is under siege by that dynasty, man. That's why this is how the Li dynasty works. They invest in businesses so they can use those businesses as a leverage. For example, you have a Li agent that starts a company. And that company invests in a business. And the business that company invests in, now invests in another business. So indirectly, via various steps, they get a hold on the economy. And they did this with Australia. So Australia has been colonized now by the Li dynasty. And sooner or later, if Australians don't wake up and do something about it, they'll have free reign over there. You'll see, you'll have a lot of Australian women being kidnapped and put in brothels because a lot of Asian creeps, man, they're obsessed with white women, so they kidnap them also. But hey, they don't have to go all the way to Europe or America because you have Australia over there. They're active in. Look, the reason I'm showing this plainly like this is because I'm not afraid of Lee Dynasty. I I've seen their leader, because it's a dynasty, so they have a leader, like all the 13 bloodlines of the Apollonians. Because since the Lee dynasty have been here since ancient times, but since the late 18th century, there were 12 white families formed from Europe that managed Satan's grip on mankind, and they all learned from the Lee dynasty in Hong Kong. So the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and Onassis, the Collins, the Kennedys, all of that, those are just, they've been here since the 19th century as managers of pagan Christianity to keep Satan's grip. But the Lee dynasty, they've been experienced for a very long time. Okay? But many people don't talk about the Lee. And here's the thing. Their ringleader of the Lee is now in his 80s. He is a British knight also, and he also served in Hong Kong's, not independence, but removed from the British Empire. Look it up for yourself. And Fritz Springmeier wrote a book called The 13 Bloodlines of the Illuminati. It's from 1999. It's a bit outdated information, but it's still good information with references to show you how things are done by the Apollonians. I don't call them bloodlines. I don't glorify them. I just tell them what they are. So right now, you have it's the Vatican. Then you have those 12 Catholic white families, the Lee dynasty in Asia. Then you have the Jesuits, and they form the top. And then you have 300 supporting families worldwide, around 300 of them. And then you have the corporations and the drug cartels and all the criminal groups. And that's how it goes. And then you have the masses. That's how they do it. Okay. Curly Girl, thank you for your super chat. It's very well appreciated. Someone asked, are American acts who expose human trafficking are covers? Well, some of them are. And by the way, Ju Feng Lee, who we know as Bruce Lee, was from that Lee dynasty. But he went against the traditions, even exposed some of their paranormally enhanced secrets of martial arts. So they got rid of him. And later Brandon Lee also, Bruce Lee's son. So they don't play any games. The only reason Hollywood tolerated Bruce Lee was because he was from the Lee dynasty. If it was any other Chinese guy, it would have been kicked to the curb, because Hollywood was quite racist back then, and it's still racist till this day. So listen, martial arts is the worship of Gog and Magog. Those are two fallen angels. Okay? Magog's also known as Ares with ancient Greeks, or Mars with the Romans. So all martial arts are rooted in the worship of those two fallen angels. And the Lee dynasty are deep worshippers of those two fallen angels. And here's the thing. In the original martial arts, you have men from the community that joined the shadow government through backdoor initiations of that. Their odds are busted in gang rapes and all of that. And then they get knowledge of how to enable demons to transfer energy from the earth into their bodies. And now they use that in order to, do their thing. Look, if a Mexican drug cartel wants to have you assassinated, they will hire some guy with a gun or a sniper to do it. When the Lee dynasty wants to get you assassinated, they get one that they send a group of paranormal enhanced soldiers after you, who will just go there, look for you, and if the whole village would turn on them, they could easily kill the whole village with their bare hands because they can make quick movements with their bodies and no human being can do naturally. So that's what martial arts was meant for paranormally enhanced soldiers of the Lee dynasty that were out there to do the dirty work. Bruce Lee took that knowledge and used it for entertainment to give people to boost people's give people psychological boost and all of that. And Bruce Lee taught some of those paranormal principles as be like water. Water becomes a teacup. He was telling about that you have to become like water. That also has to do with being open for the flow of paranormal strength. Bruce Lee wasn't feeling a lot of those things, and they took him out. So martial arts are demonic, straight up. Okay? I'm not saying that if you did martial arts that you are a devil worshiper, no, but that thing that you were tricked into is demonic. That's why they always tell you to empty your mind and hold on to the chi. The chi is this demonic force that those real martial artists are taking advantage of. Okay. Okay. That's why martial artists who would know about, they tell you the best fight is no fight. The best fight is fight to prevent it. That's why they tell you from the start the best fight is not even to fight but to avoid danger. Because if they tell you that the best fight is to smack someone down or to deal with someone, they'll be tricking you openly into devil worship. So they tell you from the start that the best fight is no fight, just that they can blame you once they deceive you. They're still guilty for deceiving you, but they tell you the truth very briefly, just so that they can use that against you, so they can try to avoid consequences. Look, you can go to the book of Fritz Springmeier, go to the section of the Lee family and read it, but that's a bit outdated, 1999. Or you can look at other works that later have been done, but here's the thing. With many people, they look at organizations. They see the Yakuza in Japan, they see the Kim dynasty in what they say is North Korea, and they see the Triad also. They see all those organizations and they think, whoa, they're competing one another. But they all are doing the same thing. So they get lost in the content, but they look at the context. And the context is it all happens in Asia and they all contribute to keeping sexual trauma going. I mean, look at it, you will realize, okay, but now then you answer, okay, now that's why Pyongyang exists, because that's where they launder everything. But they need to invest in real businesses. That's why you have Singapore. That was the reason why Singapore separated from Malaysia. Singapore was one of the constitutional states of the Kingdom of Malaysia, but they want to become separate so that the Lee dynasty can use it to invest in real businesses. Because if the Lee dynasty would go and invest in businesses just by going to the countries, the national administrations will figure it out. Civil servants will realize it. So for them to remain more hidden, they created the Singapore as a separate country so that they can work through that. And North Korea is a fake country that they use as a cover. I'm not sure about Jackie Chan, but Jackie Chan must be aware of the Lee dynasty, or he must have received visits from them, because any Asian man that becomes known or that becomes influential, the Lee dynasty means to knock on your door to join them. And when they knock, men, they don't actually knock on your door very kind. They will stalk you, and they will keep an eye on you. They will check who you're dating or who you're married to, or your friends or relatives. They create whole files about you, and then you have people approaching you. And then they will show you, Mr. Chen, we know who your wife is, who her family is. We know that your wife has a grandmother who suffers from cancer. We have a cure for that. We have an ancient cure for that, so we can help you out with that. So that's how they do it. They figure out who you are with files, and then they come to trick you in. And they overwhelm you so that you feel so fearful that you think, I'm not going to say no, or else something bad may happen. That's how they do it. So again, on Instagram, also on Facebook, especially on Instagram now, you have a lot of Asian models, whether it's Taiwanese models, Japanese models, Korean models, Chinese models, or Malaysian models. You have a lot of models that have their pages, but let me tell you, most of those model pages or model profiles are cover-ups. Those women are prostitute agents there to lure men into traps. Men text them on social media, want to meet at a place, but it's really masked men that kidnap them. And later nobody hears from them anymore, and their organs are harvested and sold, or they're used as, how let's say, as a breeder of negative energy because they're traumatized in prisons all the time. So beware. Beware of that. And also in those Asian churches, watch out. One thing the Lee dynasty loves to do is that they use those attractive females, who are also prostitute agents, to pretend to be female believers. You have those Asian women who are singing praise to the Lord, who quote scripture, all of that. You think, whoa, that's a godly, attractive woman. So you think, whoa, to have her is a price. A godly, attractive Asian woman who's quite feminine. Asian men, also men outside of Asia, would love to have that as a treasure. Think, oh, my prayers are answered. No, it's not your prayer being answered. She's there to lure other girls and women to those pagan churches. And in those pagan churches, the women are trapped into prostitution or into other stuff. In China, they had a one-child policy. Why? Because they wanted to limit the amount of children of the Han Chinese people. But the real reason why they had the one-child policy was because in Asia you still have in China you still have dark-skinned and brown-skinned Chinese people. Okay, and the idea was that the Han Chinese, which have been whitewashed, there's so many, so if they only have one child, they're going to make it. But here's the thing. They in the one-child policy, the minorities were allowed to have many babies. So China thought, you know what, soon those minorities, they're poor anyway, they'll also decide we're going to have only one child, and so those minorities will disappear eventually. But it backfired because eventually the Han Chinese had too few children, and the Chinese minorities were colored, began to have many children. So now you have far more colored Chinese people, and the pale Han Chinese are decreasing. So it backfired, that's why they stopped it. Don't start about subjects that are not related to this, okay? This whole thing about Tartaria, don't talk about it here because there's another deception that came out. So no more word about it, okay? Thank you very much. Let's see if I missed any question. Okay. Tartaria was a name used to describe big parts of Asia. It was just a name. And the peoples of there were called Tartarians, which were Mongolian people. And the Mongolian people, they were the ones that took over the Chinese Empire in the Middle Ages and began to whitewash and whole of Asia through genocide and all of that. But there was no such thing as the Great Tartarian Empire that governed everything. That's all a hoax, that started in Russia just to keep people away from doing God's will. Yes, here's the thing, that one-child policy was a temporal thing just to kill off the Chinese minorities who were dark skinned or colored skinned, but the policy were against because they thought, oh, the Han Chinese are so many, we can afford to only have one child. But here's the thing, they weren't. Because we began to abort many of their daughters. So now in some places in China, the Han Chinese have too few women. Fair enough, the minorities have abundance of women, but the Han Chinese were the pale ones, don't have that many women. So they have a problem now, demographically going down. So now China is using genocide on the Chinese minorities in the West who are Muslim. That's what they're doing now. And they've been using genocide also on the people from Tibet. So that's what China is doing. And someone asked, who is the head of the Li dynasty in ancient Greece? How do you spell his name? Was it Lao Tzu? Lao and then Z and I. It's not clear exactly when he was born, but it was during the time that the Greek Empire was dominant and Asia was Hellenized. And that's how the Han dynasty was established. It's from that era that that guy came up. and his descendants were now the Li dynasty. A belt in martial arts refers to your rank as a warlock. If you have a black belt, it means that you can master some of the demons. There are, I believe there's also a silver belt or something like that, but you have various degrees in how much you can manage paranormally. Just realize that the Li dynasty have been out of public politics for centuries now, but now they are behind the scenes doing all their crap. I don't know what the heck is going on here. There's a whole film crew, news crew over here at the guest house at the other side. And right when I'm making this live stream, they come, but I'm not going to be distracted by that. And if you want to know who's the leader of the Li dynasty now, he's in his 80s, so probably soon a successor is coming. He used to be a chairman in in the Council of Hong Kong, and he's also a banker. Look it up. On Google, you find out who he is. I'm not going to mention his name directly because YouTube may act stupid. So he's a banker, and he also is quite involved in Hong Kong politics. He used to be, after the 2000s. Look him up. Someone else is Li secret society as a white low society. Look, in those cartoon series, they base those cartoon series based on real stuff. So Avatar has this Lotus Society in it, which is just fictional, but it's based on real life, where you have the Li dynasty, who is the one managing status affairs in Asia. Where it's Taekwondo, Karate, Jiu-Jitsu, or whatever martial arts is, it all comes down to worship of Gog and Magog. So, let's look. I don't have to say more in this live stream. You know now what goes on. You know that the Li dynasty is extending at the moment. Don't be afraid of those clowns, because that's all they are, they're clowns. And the reason they get away with it in Asia, because too many Asians, man, they're proud. They don't want to admit their sexual shame and find solutions for it. That's why the Li dynasty get away with playing like they're gods, but they're not. Yes, the Li dynasty has the triad, and the triad is the organization they use to manage Chinatowns worldwide. So in every Chinatown, ever in the world, you have an agent of the Li dynasty, or you have a member of Li dynasty himself over there. And they're more active with the Chinese diaspora, with Chinatowns, than they are in mainland China itself. Because mainland China is already controlled. They're more active and involved in the Chinese diaspora. You have some Chinese people with the last name Li, but they're not part of this dynasty. You don't only have the last name, though, to historical ancestry, but the Li dynasty, this is how you write it. It's a tree with a child below it. It's a Chinese character for plum. That's the last name. They pretend to be believers, the Li dynasty, but they're really wizards. Want to drag all of Asia to hell with them. So, that's it for now. Just keep on agreeing with Christ, you all, and be at peace.